Welcome back, everybody. We have yet another very special guest for you all this week. I want everybody to welcome to the show Mr. Frankee White. Welcome, Frankee.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. We want to talk about this comic, 20 Fists, and the whole story behind that. But before we get there, we always like to do an origin story with our first time guests. So let's hear that, Frankie. What got you into comics and writing and all that jazz?
I've been writing forever, like since I was a little kid. But it wasn't until I was older that I thought of like writing comics, like for realsies, not for like just fun. like in grade school,
Right.
I wrote them on like loose leaf paper and stuff like that. But like actually writing them,
Mhm.
and really the biggest influence for me to get into it was right when the New 52 kicked off. And
Yep.
I had been out of comics for a while, and I was like, well, I can finally jump in. It's a fresh start. And I read Snyder and Capullo's Batman, and it was just game over. Like,
Yep, that's right. Yeah, that's awesome because like Chris and I, that's kind of where we met was in the New 52, and it's nice to meet other people that like got back into comics because that's what brought me back too. It was a Batman #1, and I was like, oh, they're still making new Batman comics. Like, I hadn't read anything in like years, and I was like, oh yeah, this is still a thing. Maybe I should get back into that. So that kind of like drove you to start, getting more into it.
Yeah. So I read that, and then because I read Batman, I picked up American Vampire, and then just like it snowballed out of control from there. And
Yeah.
once I was reading all these comics, I was like, you know what? I write short stories. I was working on a novel at the time, and I was like, why don't I try writing comics too? And I've been doing it now for like eight years now.
For realsies, 8 years, right? That's awesome.
And kind of I would say what you're most well known for would be the Broken Bear series. Would that be correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that was what, like, I guess you could say, like, put my name out there. It's only one graphic novel right now, and right now there's like no immediate plans to do any follow-ups for it, but I hope someday I'm able to go back to that and do that. If you like dark fantasy.
Yeah, that's always awesome. And I saw you've been doing like one-page comics as well. Is that something you're going to keep up with? Because I was looking through them, and that the Two-Face one you had recently on your Twitter was pretty awesome. Where like the art was split down the middle, and like Batman shows up at the door, like, oh, is he there to punch me in the face, or is he there to like talk to his buddy? So that was just like something you've always had an idea for. Or...
I wanted to write. I've been a big Two-Face fan since Batman the Animated Series, like when I was a little kid, and so like I've always wanted to write Two-Face, and it's one of those things where a lot of my projects currently are like done now. Like 20 Fists is done. I'm not writing it anymore, so I'm just like helping promote it. And Starless Daydream is done. I'm just helping promote that. So I don't really have a ton of like big projects lined up right now. I'm like taking a little sabbatical basically. So I was like, let me do like a one pager. Like takes very little time comparatively, right, to like writing a full comic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been big into Two-Face forever. I was very happy that idea popped into my head, and that everyone was able to work on it, and for free too. That was the best part. Since it was a one pager, everyone was like, okay, yeah, we'll do it. That sounds fun. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah, like the way the page is split and everybody like got to work on it is really cool. The art stuff.
That's gonna be a fun writing experiment too, to tell a story within one page as opposed to 22 or 110 or however many.
Right. I honestly think like for people that are getting into comics writing, especially, you should like practice writing short form stories. Like, before you jump in with your, mega epic or anything like that. I feel like every writer coming in is like, I got my 12 page, or my 12 issue maxi series ready to go in my head and everything. It's like, well, if you work on those, like one pagers especially are really tight, because you basically have to like give a thesis in a page. You have to have like a whole one and done idea, which is really hard to do. But even like 4-page comics, 6-page comics, being able to tightly tell a story will help you long run if you're trying to tell something bigger, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I never looked at it that way. And like you're not that experienced like fitting 22 pages in or whatever, you're kind of just filling in content at that point or don't have
right,
enough.
exactly. Well, and
Yeah.
also too, like when you think of the way I think of it, right, is like a short comic for the most part is usually like a scene. It's like a scene in a larger story a lot of times, right?
Yeah, right.
You could put something before or after your short comic if you really wanted to.
Hmm.
So really what you're doing is you're practicing writing a scene. So take that, 4-page concept, you put it into a 22-page story, and now you've got 4 pages out of your 22 pages, right? You're not,
Wow. Yeah.
craft wise, it's a fun exercise.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we've talked about the writing um, process on this show, and I don't think we've heard it described like that as like a scene, because the way your one pager works, there's definitely something that takes place before and after that fits perfectly. Like that's just a snapshot out of something larger. Huh.
And that's how the other two, because I did 3 in a week, and it just worked out that way where I was starting the Two-Face one first, and I had like tweeted about it, and then some other people saw that tweet and they're like, "Oh, one-pager comic sounds fun." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, like if you guys are also willing to work on this, like let's go."
That's
so
awesome.
It was the same thing with the other two. It's picking a moment, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about what we're here for today. I mean, 25th. That was originally a Kickstarter. I don't know if you want to talk about the history of that, but it's coming out next week. So give us the lowdown on this.
I am super, super, super excited that this is finally hitting in comic shops. So 25th is what my pitch for it is, that it's the Warriors meets Romeo and Juliet. So it's like two women are in a fist fight league in opposing crews, and they're going through a breakup as their crews are about to meet for another fight. So you have like a double level
okay.
of emotional and physical violence, basically.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm sure it's not going to be awkward at all.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it was originally a Kickstarter. I've been working on it with Kat, who's the artist, Kat Bauman. I've been working with her since 2018. So it's been a 3-year long process just to kind of slowly work on the pages, because we were self-funding everything, right? I was paying her, and she was, had to take the time to do it in between day jobs and everything. So it was like basically like 2 pages a week schedule for like 3 years to get it done.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And so finally to have it out, and in a bigger way, as opposed to doing a Kickstarter, where I'm very grateful for the people that, supported the book and backed it. But like the numbers just from like being with any kind of publisher who has a name is going to be significantly higher, unless if you're a superstar going to Kickstarter,
right.
Those.
yeah. We see like the Matt Keanu Reeves
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys, that's getting
right. I mean, you didn't need to do that.
You put Keanu Reeves' name in the title. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are always kind of silly. So, you did get picked up from SourcePoint, right? So you want to talk about
SourcePoint Press, yeah.
What's a little different now that you're working with them?
Well, so the good thing is they've been really great to work with, but at the same time, the comic was done. So like, as opposed to pitching them something and then having to work with them as we work through the whole process, the story was done, and I submitted literally just the entire PDF to them, and I was like, here you go, like if you like it, like let's talk. And so they got back to me and they were like, okay, yeah, that looks sweet. So it was pretty like hands off. It was done, it was already done. I just submitted the 3 single issues for it as they needed it, and that was basically it. And like little bits of like promotional tidbits here and there from them and stuff, but they're really great. I know, I just heard they're moving into like a huge new building in Michigan, which it's like an old historic giant building. So I don't know, I feel like they're on the rise. I feel like they're just getting bigger and bigger, which is cool.
Yeah. Them and Scout I tend to hear a lot, especially inside the Kickstarter community.
Well, they're like that. I mean, there's not a lot of comics publishers, right? Like there's the very big ones that are hard for anybody breaking into comics to get to. You're not going to get to DC and Marvel first, for the most part. You're not going to get to Image first for the most part, Dark Horse even. So like
unless
they're
you're Jason
perfect.
Aaron.
Right, exactly. Yeah, unless you just like happen to luck out, you're the one in a million
Yeah, right.
person.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have those publishers who are, they've been around, they love working on indie books. It's not just, I mean, obviously you want things to sell, that's how you stay in business, but like,
Right.
they're willing to take chances on books that might, not seem like at face value like a super super big hit or something like that, because the content is important.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So now that SourcePoint has kind of created a relationship with you, they're putting out this book. Have they talked to you about like maybe the next book? You just come straight to us and we don't worry about Kickstarter, or is it kind of just a hey, we put this out and then they haven't said anything?
No, they haven't said anything yet. I think it's kind of like we gotta wait and see how it sells, right? That's really the bottom line of it all. Is if it doesn't sell well, then they're not going to want to do another one. If it does, then I've got ideas.
Yeah.
So,
well,
but
I just hope I hope you have covers ready for the second and third printings. Is all I'm saying for the issue.
Seriously. Hopefully, fingers crossed, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So you said you're starting to say you have some other ideas planned for stories you'd like to with this 25th universe, or just
with this universe, like I was saying with my short stories, and I kind of do this with like most of my books, whether it's the short comics or the long books, they start and end like a little bit in the middle of like what could be considered like a larger narrative. So like when 25th starts, you're in the middle of something. Like it opens with one of the crews walking into a bar, and like it sets up a scene. So you're just like following them in, and then it ends. No spoilers, but it ends also in a sense where like it leaves it open so that you can continue telling more stories in that world. Also, it's just fun because it's a fist fight league. So I mean, it's there's a lot of room to play around there.
Right.
So you telling me I'm not going to get bogged down with an origin story in issue 1, page 1?
No, this is like the exact opposite of that. I have been chided for, I would say, a lack of narration and heavy exposition. Like there's in 25th, there's no narration. There's no inner thought. It's everything on the page is what you see. The premise is I want you to have been like following them along. In every scene, you're just like kind of standing off to the side, like watching it happen.
Yeah,
like
right. That's awesome. See, like, and I guess there's like two ways you could go with that. You could do like, the Dark Knight Returns approach, where like every time he throws a Hail Mary, you have to have like this inner monologue. Well, like 3 pages long. But like sometimes when I have these books, especially like something that's like a fist fighting club, you just want to see the fist fly, and you don't always need that narration, right?
Right. Well, and I think that was part of it, was because my big creative emphasis for the story is the warriors. In that movie, there's no interior monologues or anything. You follow them for the night, and that's the story. And I wanted it to reflect that in 25th too, where it's most of the story takes place over a single night, and there's 2 like brief interludes that flash back that give you a little more context for the core relationship at the the heart of the story. But that's really what I wanted. Was I don't want to bog you down with narration. Everything that's on the page is, you can tell what they're feeling, because Kat's line work is so suggestive and emotive that like we didn't need to have like an interior monologue where Shell, the lead character, would be like, and yeah, I felt this way, because like on the page you're seeing how she's emoting in the moment. You don't need to bog it down. Yeah. Also, too, nothing, as a reader, nothing turns me off more to a comic when I open it up and it's just covered like in text. Like that drives me nuts. Comics are an art first medium, and so let the artist do the talking, and I'll get out of the fucking way. Sorry.
There's definitely moments where I open up a book, and not to cast aspersions, but usually a Bendis book, and I just like put it down. Like, I don't have time for this today. Like I love Bendis and I love that style sometimes, but there's times where I'm just like, not today.
Right. Well, exactly. Bendis and Snyder, who's ironically, right, he's the one that got me into comics, and my writing style is like the exact opposite of his. But they're like the only two where I'm like, all right, you get a pass for this, because most of the time it's just not like good enough to merit having that much text on the page when you can just have your artist do the storytelling. Like, that's what they're there for.
That's why I like the Jeff Loeb style, where it's like, it's the old adage where like a Jeff Loeb book, you could read it during a number 1 instead of a number 2 because it's such a quick read and there's not a whole lot of text.
Right. Just flip right through it.
So let me ask you, as a writer, because you're saying a lot of this book is going to have fist fights and stuff like that, are you taking a much more hands-on approach to each individual fight scene, or is it more like, hey, Kate, during page 2 through 6, like, they're gonna fight a lot, figure it out, and then move on? Or is it somewhere in between?
I would say it's somewhere in between. So the way that the book is broken up, it's 5 chapters, rounds 1, 2, and 3, which are like the night of, and that's each round is a different set piece. So the first round takes place in a bar, the second round takes place on a playground, and the third round takes place in front of like a giant church. And so it's 3 different like action set pieces. And I wouldn't say I was like hands-on in the sense that like I was saying you have to draw like this, and this exactly like this. But I had like, for example, in round 2 when they're on the playground, because you have 5 fighters per team, there's 10 people all wandering around on the map, like, of this playground. So I drew it out and I said like, okay, so we like, for context, so we know like where everybody's at. Here's the way here's the way everyone's moving around the map simultaneously. So, if you're drawing a page of 2 characters fighting, in the background you might see someone like running by or something, because they're like literally physically there, across the map. And when you flip over, you might see like the reverse.
Yeah, because I'm always interested when like it happens a lot when I'm reading Spider-Man, and you see these very intricate, and Daredevil as well, but you see these really intricate fight scenes, and it's very beautifully done throughout the page, and I'm just sitting there going like, how does that get written?
Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, because like it's hard to like write a fight scene. It's hard to write it in a way that would be like engaging to read, right? Like it's a visual thing. Like nobody wants to read a martial arts scene. They want to watch them fight. Want to see it happen. So writing it is more like, you break it down by page, and you break it down by panel and go from there. And maybe it's just like they throw a left hook, they sweep, they do a big boot, like stuff like that. And
I guess it is interesting because it's like, it's not so word heavy at times, unless you're writing like Krakoom and that stuff, like the I could never see myself writing, but I always wanted to be the person that like gets to put the Krakoom in the story, or like there's just like so Chris, if you ever get a lightning bolt scene in your next comic, you let me know, and I'll
letters, my friend. That's what letters are for.
Yeah, right, exactly. Godsend, because that's really what it is. Like 25th, when it was all said and done, I like pulled up my Microsoft Word doc and I was like, how like much text is actually in this? And it's like 11,000 words, like for the entire script, like, which isn't a lot. Like that's really, it's not like it really is. It's mostly sound effects. It's mostly like crunches and cracks and stuff like that, outside of like the scenes where, they're talking about the main relationship between Shell and Billy, whether it's those 2 characters talking to each other or their friends in the crew talking about them and how they feel about this whole fucking bullshit going down.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and it's coming out in a few days, right? Next Wednesday.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, issue 1 drops Wednesday the 28th, and then the next 2 issues are both like late month releases too. So it's like the last week of each month it'll be dropping. And the one thing too that is big is like, so if anybody backed the Kickstarter, the original books were in black and white. That was like the stylistic idea I had in my head at the time. The Source Point Press ones are fully colored.
Oh, nice.
So we got Gab Contreras to come in and color it, and she did like an amazing job. Before we brought her in, I was like, I just can't see this work. Like I was being stubborn. I was like, it's black. It was meant to be black and white. It can't be anything else. And then she did the colors. I was like, never mind. I was stupid. This is the best way.
Does that like put a new twist on the story for you? Like reading it again? Like is it?
it definitely is a different experience. So Kat's line work is really, really good. She's a really good inker. So when you're reading it in black and white, there's a real emphasis on her work. And it's almost like I would love to do an artist edition where we do like blow it the fuck up and it's like a big ass hardcover, right? And
that'd be awesome. Yeah,
something that where you can appreciate her line work. With the colors, it is much more like, if I don't know, it feels more like a full thing as opposed to like, not for lack of a better term, like the black and white version was like watching Kat show off, and now it's like everybody's come together. Like,
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And how does Source Point handle digital? Do they go through Comixology?
Yes, yeah. So it'll be on Comixology too on Wednesday, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, and if I am wrong, forgive me, but I'm pretty sure their first issues are 99 cents on Comixology. So you get like a special deal, to.
Better.
That's what I like to. I mean, I was getting either way, but 99 cents, okay. So
I think that's it. Either that, or one day I was on it and it was a sale. So I apologize, if that's not the case.
That's fine. As long as they're not doing the whole $4.99 thing, like DC.
No, yeah. Even all the physical issues are $3.99. But they're all oversized. So it's 3 issues. Issue 1 is 35 pages. Issue 2 is 21, and then issue 3 is 30. So they kind of got like wonky page sizes, but they're all basically bigger except for 2. And 2 is one giant fight scene. 2 is like, there is no like dialogue sequences or anything like that. Like, it's a 21 page fight scene at a playground between the 2 crews, and they just like beat the shit out of each other.
Awesome. That's what you want in your, like, your fist fight club book, right? Just everyone beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah, it's gotta get at least a little bit messy, otherwise it was not a successful fist fight club.
Awesome.
And so all 3 issues are done, printed, ready to go. We're not going to get any delays on this one.
No, the only delays that, well, I don't know if they're all printed and ready to go, but they're like they're all done. Source Point Press has them. The only delays that could happen is like if Diamond is slow or something, or they forget to ship something. But and other than that, like, there's not going to be the first 2 issues come out and then we're delayed because we're behind on like actually making the book or anything like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
And it's only 3 issues too, so like no big commitment, which is a big thing for me.
Right. Yeah, when you get like, you're reading a book and it's like issue 3 of 12 and you're already like not into it, you're like, oh man, do I really?
Yeah, do I gotta commit? It's like, this is a safe commitment, even if you don't really like issue 1. It's only 2 more issues, guys.
Only 2 more. You're not the completionist and everybody. You got to do it. You got to fill out all 3 issues. Awesome. Well, Frankee, man, thanks so much. And if we want to direct our listeners, watchers to what you're doing, where can we have them follow you?
You can find me on Twitter at Frankee, FRANKEE _White, like the color. That's where I am primarily. I have an Instagram, which is basically the same thing, but it's a period instead of an underscore, but I don't really go on it, so that would just be a waste of time for you to follow me on that.
You're a writer. You're more apt for Twitter, I guess, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't really have anything to show. Everything on Instagram is like pictures of my dogs and stuff. So it's not...
that's not so bad though.
Yeah.
And so next Wednesday, everybody check it out at your local comic shop, 25th, and on Comixology too. So and we'll have those links in the show notes for everybody too. So
definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Frankee. And we'd love to have you back when we get a few issues out to talk about them. So
yeah, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.